I've never been with that.
Oh man, I could have let you do that before I started.
No worries.
Uh, so
Um,
how can I help you, dude?
yeah, man. So I've read everything that you've written for High Time so far. Like really powerful stuff. Very a great balance of something very personal to your experience, and kind of you've done a good job of translating that same experience to a lot of other veterans like yourself too. And so it's really helped me understand your perspective and your history, like where you come from. And that was kind of, the original idea for the story with High Times when Holly approached me with it was more going to focus on one veteran based out of New York, kind of starting his own. He has like five different cannabis businesses that, sell any variety of products and everything. And at first it was like, it felt like maybe a little bit of like, not a puff piece, but a little bit of like a highlight of just this one individual and what he's doing in the space as a veteran going into cannabis. And we decided it would be a more holistic story and would allow us to get into more of the nitty gritty of the veteran experience and why veterans are entering cannabis if we look at it from a wider angle, right? And so just wanted to talk to as many as possible, as many veterans like yourself as possible. And honestly, the what was the guy's name that might be joining us today?
Kowalski, Robert Kowalski.
Robert. Cool, man. Yeah, I mean, afterwards, if he's not able to join, like, feel free to pass him along my information. I know he has my email now, but
Yeah,
just in case, it's like I could always make time to talk to him next week also. And
cool.
yeah, so I want to look at the. I still have a lot of research to do. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm still a little ignorant on the topic, just what Holly has shared with me and what I've read that you have written. And but I've spoken to enough veterans or families of veterans in the cannabis space to understand the history and the for lack of a better word malfeasance from the VA hospitals that has like offered very little support for people like you and for family members. That's I've had plenty of people tell me like, man, I really would have wished my vet dad was a stoner versus an alcoholic or addicted to pills or whatever they needed to deal with their affliction. So yeah, man, just kind of wanted to like give you the floor, let you kind of tell me your story, if that's something that you're willing to share. And then, depending on how much time we have left, I had a few questions prepared that I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of dive further in. But if I do unfortunately, I do only have the 30 minutes right now. I have a couple other things I have to work on today. But if we don't get to go to my questions today, I have them all typed up and I can send them to you through email and you can take your
Well,
time this weekend. Really.
let's start with those.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, man, I was reading, I'll kind of go through, I was reading like all of the things that you've written, some of the stuff that you sent over to me as well, like some of your, kind of ChatGPT work that you were doing. And so each question is kind of focused on one specific either article or a point that I saw that you made and something that I kind of wanted, hoping that you could expand on it a little bit. And maybe we can dive a little bit further into what you were, what your message was and the purpose of what you were trying to do.
Cool.
So specifically, I wanted to go a little bit into try and connect a little bit of your pre-military self with your post-military self and kind of the pipeline from juvie to, going into a combat situation. Um, so in the clock, you talked about being in juvie, writing about Capone and your cousin Jorge, you know, kind of similar stories, but from two different models, basically, like navigating within the same fucked up system,
Right.
right? And so you end up in the army, and looking back, do you see any through line like between the kid who was reading about this, institutional hypocrisy from such a young age, clearly enough to basically admire Capone and admire Capone's logic, and the veteran who like lit up a joint in the VA pharmacy as like, a deliberate kind of act of like not sabotage, but a little bit of, wake some people up. Like do you see a through line between those two people And at what point do you think, if at all, those two people kind of like came back together in your post-military life? Like, how do those two people, do they coexist, or are you a different person now than you were
No,
before?
I mean they coexist. I think s- from what I hear, with people discussing neurologic issues like post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury and just trauma in general, um, your brain and your body and your perspective start to really solidify around that age when you're experiencing these things. So,
Yeah.
depending on what it is that you're going through and for how long, like how sustained it is, you just kind of develop a picture of the world and what's around you. And from this side, looking back at that time in juvie, because it wasn't just that time in juvie where I was locked down. It was like 2.5 years worth of stuff. And then before that, I had a whole nother level of system contact.
Oh, okay.
So it was an accumulation of things that had me looking at the systems and had me looking at various individuals.
You start questioning shit, right?
Well, yeah, because I'm getting hit. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Who do I think I am? Et cetera, yada
Yeah.
yada. Right. But I started getting tatted up by the time I was 11. And
Damn.
so by the time I was 18, I was already, it was pretty well apparent what my mindset was.
Hmm.
So that time in juvie, I just uh, reflected on the question that was asked to me, answered honestly, and really reflected more about my cousin
Right.
and what he
Formative,
was
right?
teaching me. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that inspired me. The other one scared me, but
Hmm.
inspired me too because it was like, hey man, like this is a flaw in the system.
Yeah, it was very real, right?
Well, yeah, he capitalized on hypocrisy.
Hmm.
Like I say in that piece, it is what it is. Now, looking back as a man after the army, after my time in service, um, I'm able to add more to that reflection that was done in juvie, and that's what that piece was. But heading into the army, before the army, I had to make a choice on where I was going. And there were a lot of serious things that were starting to happen around the time that I was like 17, 18, getting off of juvie.
What year was that?
Um, that would have been 99, 2000, like
Okay. So,
2000.
so that was before 9/11, because I feel like that was such a,
Right, it was right before.
yeah,
It's
okay.
like right. So I was, if I would have stayed in school, I was class of 2001,
Damn. Wow. Okay.
and but I dropped out as a sophomore, and
Mhm.
I was already working. I was doing construction, and when 9/11 happened, I was doing custom metal fabrication, like doing light fixtures and gates and stuff.
Okay.
Um, I didn't have any credentials, so I was a legit dropout
Mhm.
with a record. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
And
not a lot of options, right?
nah. And
Yeah.
so 9/11 happened, and I just like I was hungover from the night before of making bad decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Getting up, rushing to the shower to go and then go to work, and I'm heading to the bathroom. I see my parents just stuck on the TV, and that's how I found out. And then after I got to work, every was just stuck on it, the radio, the TV in the office. And at the end of the day, I just went up to my boss. I was like, "Hey man, I don't think I'm gonna come back. Like I think I'm gonna go join the military." He's like, "What, dude?
Wow.
Like, look at you. Like, what do you mean? Like, I saw your resume when you get in here, bro. What do you mean?" It's like I don't know, man. Like, I can't. Like, this is different. And so I come from a military family anyway. Like, both of my grandparents were master
Yeah.
sergeants, right? One in the Air Force, one in the Army. And then my dad was in the Air Force. My uncle was in the Navy. Um,
Oh, so everyone.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
biological family, right? My adopted family came from Mexico, so not like nobody from there, but
Okay.
like my biological family, a lot of service. So I just did what I had to do, and I started going to all the recruiting stations, and I got laughed out of all of them except one that started with the Navy. And then they told me I had to go and get my credentials, which I did, and I came back and they reneged on their contract. I think they just wanted to see if I would do it.
Hmm.
And so I walked next door to the army and they figured it out. And I eventually just went with the army. And then once I got into basic, because of my record, I needed a waiver, right? I had to go and get some gang related tattoos covered up.
Hmm.
And then when I got into basic training, my drill sergeants flagged me and I started working with at risk youth over there in
Oh, okay.
Missouri. So it worked out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was able to connect with a lot of people based off that experience that, like a cop, just a regular cop out of high school going into law enforcement, like kind of have a difficult time communicating with people who weren't on that trajectory, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. So do you, man, I remember, when 9/11 happened, I'm a few years younger than you. I was a freshman in high school, so I was 14. Um, but that was the age and that was the catalyst that like really kind of turned my brain on to what's really happening in the world and how our government really does function or dysfunction, however you want to look at it. And I also became very kind of active at that point. I feel like it kind of switched a lot of our brains on to like start really paying attention. And man, and I felt like I kind of lost that a little bit. Like I got complacent, went to college, things, it felt like the world was kind of going back to like, okay, you can keep ignoring politics, like this shit's boring. You don't have to pay attention anymore. And it was also the age that I was at, 20, 21, just partying, going to school and everything. And I feel like that light got turned back on against my will, like 5, 6, 7 years ago.
COVID.
COVID, just yeah, man, just kind of seeing like the veil start to be more transparent. And so yeah, so I'm curious, like, I kind of had to like find that kid again, that like pissed off, anti-authority, like 15-year-old kid again, and realize like, damn, I was so awake and my eyes were so open at that time, and I felt so radicalized at that time,
Mm.
and I had to rediscover that. So do you feel like you still have that juvie kid in you, the guy with the that came up getting gang tats and just doing what he had to do to get by? Like, do you still feel that way, or do you feel like very different after your experience of like going to military and everything you dealt with after that?
I certainly feel different,
Yeah.
but I respect the life that I made it out of,
Mm.
and I do value the lessons, a lot of the lessons that I came away with from, you know. That being said, I'm really grateful for not having to live that way anymore, and where I'm at now. Not knocking it, it's just for me it wasn't healthy.
Yeah, but you're able to like think about those times and take away the positive lessons from it.
Well, yeah, I mean, and also my a lot of my family's still in it, and I have a lot of friends who are still living um, in a way that really it's hard to get away from,
Hmm.
and so
Call it
seeing
alternative lifestyles.
it's just reminders,
Hmm.
cautionary tales, right? Like, hey man, remember, like that was you,
Right.
and so there's a lot of that, like a lot of reflection. Not like I don't ever glorify or I try not to glorify. Sometimes it's like I had some fun with me and my friends growing up
Yeah.
doing stupid shit. But at the same time, like would I recommend it? Nah, nah. like go to
There
school.
were different ways that you probably could have learned those lessons, right?
But for what I was going through and what I thought I had as options, I was just going with it. And
Right.
so now I use that as my barometer as far as like when I know I'm really messing up or like starting to drift towards some stinking thinking. And
Mm.
then because of the military discipline and the training and stuff like that, uh, I come away with just a different sensibility about things. Still ready to get into a debate, right? But there's like I'm not looking to go fisticuffs with anybody these days. I'm not looking to go out and start any static with anybody like that's gonna hit the streets. I'm not. I've been in politics now for 15 years, like in the murky areas, the shadows and stuff like that.
Right. The places where shit actually gets done, where change can actually occur.
There's a lot flying.
Yeah.
And so in that respect, like coming up the way I did around the kind of people, like the serious kind of people that I come up around, um, and seeing what that life is really about.
Mhm.
Because with the stuff that I was doing, it was really just I was a brat.
Yeah, you were a kid,
I
man.
was a kid. I didn't know. I was trying to emulate what I was seeing and trying to parrot what it is that I was hearing and this and that. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I got to see a lot of people who were serious about that life,
Right.
and I got to see also where that led them and what they had to struggle through and survive in
Right.
order to come out the other end with options. So it's just now dealing with shitty people. That's exactly what it is. It's like, oh, well, that sucks. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, what's the strain for that?
Right.
It's like, fuck. A lot of yoga, a lot of puppy cuddles these days, a lot of garden
Yeah.
time, a lot of, like, thankfully, I come up doing sports and the military really ingrained physical activity. So getting out on the bike, getting out for a walk, getting out for a hike, just getting
Mhm.
into nature really helps reset things so
Mhm.
that it's not that taking over because it'll consume you.
Yeah, you found more healthier mechanisms to get through those moments. Yeah. To
And
deal
the
with those emotions.
and the ability to be kind with myself when I
Mhm.
don't have the kind of constraint or when I'm not able to hold my tongue.
Right.
Oops, because that's happened too. Like I haven't always performed to my own standards. I get
Very human.
especially when you have people undercutting you and doing dirty deals, and it's just it can get really hard to navigate sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, man, I think it's a really like you have such a unique story and a unique like trajectory that's not necessarily, unique unto you, but you lived it and processed it and dealt with it in only the ways that you knew how, and that's what makes your story so unique. Like, I think about movies like Blood In, Blood Out, where it's like you see these troubled youth kids that have been in and out of juvie or jail or whatever and end up in the military to try and get some form of direction, some form of like, some adults telling you maybe like a better way to
Right.
do the thing, yeah, I think that's a really important story to tell. And I think it's a story that a lot of people would connect with also, which obviously through your writing, like people have been connecting with it. Um, I had the next question I was thinking was around like the precision strike that you wrote about. I was thinking like, so in one of your pieces, I'm trying to remember exactly which one, but you wrote about kind of outrage and hashtags and protests and all this kind of performative, maybe,
And it's Uncle Rico's dojo.
there you go, Rico's Dojo. So like you wrote, that a lot of the institutions have kind of become calloused
Yeah.
to to a lot of these forms of expression and dissent, and outspokenness. And, like you weren't lighting that joint in the pharmacy for to go viral, like you were trying to make a real fucking point. So that was to me, I'm like, that's like a precision strike, that had a very specific purpose and reason why you were doing that. And it was very targeted, right? But that implies a target, like a desired effect after that. So like what was the desired effect of lighting up that joint? Like, do you think anything has come out of that of you doing that? Like, have you seen any measurable change from before and after lighting up that joint? Or was the value of doing that just purely in the act of like making someone confront the contradictions of what, people are telling us how we should handle, these types of things that you were going through?
I at that so that was around 2017.
Okay.
That was right around when the High Times article for the veterans come out. Around the same time, I had just come back from Philadelphia, hanging out with Michael Wider up there, and Dan Sky. He was doing a roundtable,
Okay.
and there was a lot of eyes on the issue
Hmm.
nationally. And at that stage, I had tried to play by the rules. I had tried to support the research they said they wanted. I had tried to go down all the different ways that were prescribed, legitimately at the highest levels that I could get to,
Right.
outside of like elected public office. Like my record, I mean, I don't like to brag. Like I've been involved with a lot of things and in a lot of different rooms where people spoke freely who otherwise don't.
Okay.
And so,
Because there's no cameras around, or
well,
because
because it's a different things, that
Mhm.
being one of them, but also we're all part of the same club.
Right.
Various
That
fe-
you had that camaraderie, that kind of
well, various
common
fellowship,
understanding.
well, various fellowships that I was a part
Yeah.
of, various organizations that I had been a part of, various organizations that I was invited to be a guest member of, um, such as the Southern Arizona Leadership Council and the Flynn Brown Fellowship.
Mhm.
So, hearing the way they spoke about this issue and having the kind of record that I did just in civic leadership, not even going into my military, I have over 300 combat missions in Baghdad and surrounding areas, like
Yeah.
2004, 2005, and some of the worst fighting of the war, minus the surge and stuff. Like, I
Mhm.
have my bona fides, and it was one of those things where like I didn't come out about my cannabis use voluntarily. Really, I was asked
Mhm.
to support Sue Sisley in her research.
Mhm.
I was already in a leadership position on campus. Coming out about my medical use of cannabis, which was nobody's business,
Right.
I shouldn't have to prove to anybody nothing regarding my health or my well-being, like outside of my primary care team and my physicians and my family.
Yeah. So you volunteered that information in the hopes that it would
Well,
actually.
because it was in first, I would have felt like a hypocrite otherwise.
Right.
And for 3 years, I was leading an organization, and people knew that I was doing this, who had been to my house and stuff like that. So that was the real moment of smoking the joint.
Mhm.
And everything that happened in between made smoking that joint in the VA a necessity because I got kicked out of my fellowship programs. I got kicked out of all kinds of leadership things and community engagements and other things. My reputation got dragged through the mud.
Mhm.
All right, it hit me personally, it hit me professionally, in many other ways. It even reached within the VA and my psychologist. So by the time 2017 come around, I didn't have anything else to lose.
Okay.
I was already on the outs with my relationship of 6 years. I was already, like, all these things had just come together. I really didn't have any more prospects to do anything. And
Mhm.
so going viral, I didn't even take my phone. I didn't tell
Right.
anybody. I didn't even tell anybody I was doing it.
Right. That's what I mean. I'm like, I know that wasn't the
No,
point.
I
You know,
went to
so
catch a case, bro. I wrote about it. I went
right,
to catch a case, a federal
right.
case, because I'm 100% permanent and totally disabled, combat related through the VA.
Hmm.
They're responsible for my care.
Right.
And when I'm telling them, like, hey, look, this kept a bullet out of my mouth. Hey, check out my resume. You guys were really excited before I started talking about this to put me out there and put me in front of cameras and have me on panels and go out here and be your fucking dog and pony shit.
Right.
But when I start telling you about my experience and start sharing experiences, other like you shun us. Not just shun us, but you stigmatize us after telling
Right.
us that nothing is off the table and that you're so concerned about the suicide rate and that you're so like fuck out of here, dude. What's up? And
Yeah. That's
so
back in the face, man.
the victory was hotboxing that fucking pharmacy, which felt great,
Hmm.
and then leaving. They know they're wrong.
Yeah.
We already won. And from that moment, I understood it's just a matter of time.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so that I waited a couple more years, and then 2019, I came out on Ounce magazine with basically like a call to arms challenging the VA because I had been pondering and listening to other people in all these meetings and just the work that I had done organizing and stuff with veterans across the country. And so I put out bolded a list of what it is that we were demanding through Ounce magazine.
Mhm.
And then shortly thereafter, Robert Kowalski and I started getting everybody together, like ATM Fontan and whoever else that wanted to meet, Brian Buckley and others. And we started the VAC, the Veterans Action Council. But
That's yeah. I think that's. I mean, that's the result right there. I feel like that's the tactic worked, right? Like what you decided to do. It's like you are that created change. And that's actionable change too, because like probably what you did, and correct me if I'm wrong, you standing up for yourself in that way, in such a powerful way, and with such a with a substance that has been so fucking stigmatized and honestly like demonized throughout our entire history of both of us being alive, like taking that stance against the VA and showing them what really worked for you, not what they have been doing. What they were doing was not working for you. That probably made a lot of other veterans like yourself feel more comfortable to own their usage, right?
I didn't tell anybody, bro. I went
But
to Cat.
obviously something came out after it, right?
Well,
Like,
not, I mean, so again, like I had already been organizing, and the work didn't stop.
right,
I
right,
just went home, like, what the fuck was that?
right.
And then when I told the only other person I told was Mike Wider in Philly,
Okay.
and then he was like, "What the fuck, dude? You didn't film that?" He's like, you didn't even take a picture, bro. Like, fuck, dude. Um, but nah, other than that, I was like, all right, well, just back. We got to think.
Right.
We gotta make our argument plain in no uncertain terms, and
Hmm.
we gotta wait for the right opportunity to get on the record wherever we can, and
Yeah.
then just start educating our community because the VA is not doing it, and nobody else is doing it. So we got to do it for ourselves, and that's
You
when
haven't seen
we
you
put
haven't
out.
seen any change from then until now in the internal workings of the VA, right? Or any sort of
Oh no, there's change. What? No, there's change.
okay.
It's incremental, yeah, but not because of what I did at the VA. Not because of that. All right, that fuck, they don't even acknowledge what. I
Okay.
bet if you go back and talk to the administration, you can't even get a videotape of that shit. It was probably scrubbed.
Okay.
But the amount of people over the years, right? Because it started off in 2013. it was me, Sean Kiernan, Kevin Richardson, Michael Crowitz, Al Byrne, Marilyn Mathery, and like a handful of other veterans who were willing to risk going public talking about this and risking benefits or getting on the record and what is it going to mean to my family and my career path, yada 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 yada.
Hmm.
So really, the incremental turning up of the volume across the country with people who aren't connected with each other and who have no reason to come up with the same type of story, start saying the same kind of thing. And
Hmm.
then as the elected officials and then the higher ups within these veteran organizations start to experience themselves, then it becomes an issue.
Right.
And when they know somebody who it affects that they like, then they want movement because how dare you criminalize me or criminalize somebody that I care about? It's for the other people.
Right.
So the more it has hit home, it's like coming out of the closet when you were gay,
Hmm.
right? The family finds out you're a stoner. Oh shit, right? But you're sleeping, and now that's part of the reason why they like you again, and why everybody's kind of like having a good time and communicating more and going out and doing outdoorsy things or whatever.
Yeah. 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 I think, how does that make you feel, seeing now how almost normalized weed is becoming in so many, not even like, in certain regions of the country. It's almost like in the world. Like the opinions have completely changed in the last maybe 10 years, but mostly I feel like in the last 5 years, like a lot has happened in that, to the point where, my own parents, people who are in their 60s, almost 70 something years old, all of my, extended family who are even older than that are becoming so open to just the possibility of the fact that this could be a beneficial plant, and it could offer so many different types of modes of therapy in so many different ways. Like I wrote an article recently, which I think you called out, that like joy is still a valid reason to smoke weed. And I was recently visiting. My whole family's from Dominican Republic, so I was there.
Yo, I read that article, bro. I
Uh,
read that article. That's crazy. That was a good article. I shared
okay,
it. I shared it to Kowalski, the dude that we were talking about. I was like, yeah, I gotta say this is a great review. And this is
nice.
one of the best reviews I've read. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I was so like, that was even more eye-opening to me, seeing the change in the conversation, like the shift of words and ideas surrounding cannabis now. Because in Dominican Republic and a lot of other like parts of Latin America, it's still incredibly stigmatized, to the point where it's like you might as well be doing heroin if you're going to be smoking a joint. And with me, the way I was able to, maybe some gummies in my luggage on the way down there. So like we were at the beach and I was taking a gummy, and I was hanging out with my grandma, and she's 93 years old. And bro, the questions that she was asking me, of genuine curiosity of what this is, versus being, coming from a place of fear or suspicion. I think that's incredible. So, like that was so eye-opening to me, and that just happened about a month ago. It's extended family that I only see every couple of years, and I just started really working in this space, trying to be more involved in this space in the last 2, 3 years. Outside of like a cultural perspective, like really trying to get in policy and industry wise, and that was really eye-opening to me, man. So I feel like the conversation is just going to continue shifting, right? The more that we see legalization happen, and the more that we realize that like the fucking house isn't going to burn down, like because people are smoking weed, or, people aren't going to all of a sudden, like it's not chaos in the streets because like people are doing dabs at the park. You know what I mean? Like, and so I feel like, do you see, do you like, I think you already mentioned it, but do you see a more openness in that type of dialogue, to be able to talk about these types of things, not just like what's affecting you or what your day-to-day life is like, but the modes of therapy that you guys choose through cannabis? Like, do you see a lot of more openness happening since you've been doing all this work for the last 10 years?
So I think, like for me, number one, like Catholic families being what they are, there's a lot of
Mhm.
shame involved
Yes.
in general. Period. Um, so when the government is literally saying that this is equivalent to heroin and this like substance is bad, 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 uh, what's there to say? What's there to talk about? And for the old school who weren't rebels and weren't independent minded, no. You
Yeah,
know?
dude. I mean, I've been smoking this for 20 years now, man. And it's kind of the same thing. Like it's funny that you bring up tattoos because like I'm fully, I'm tatted up and I started doing that like probably in my mid 20s just because I was waiting until I got money, basically.
Yeah.
Uh, but man, just like with cannabis, tattoos was a big thing in my family too. There's just like because again, grow up Catholic, we're Dominican. Like my family, my dad and my mom thought if you have tattoos, you're either, you're in a gang, you're selling drugs, you're an ex-con, something like that. And to me, it was a fucking rock star shit. It was aesthetic. I was like, dude, I want to feel, I want to look the way that I feel. You know what I mean? And tattoos were such a great way for me to express myself and have that reflection of like who I am internally now being, that much more visible to the world, and I love carrying myself in that way. That it's like you take one look at me, you probably can figure out, a lot of things about me without having to say a single word. And now 20 years later, I've asked my parents before. I'm just like, man, when you found out that I started smoking weed, when you started, seeing me getting tattoos and seeing that I'm still a valuable member of society. You know what I mean? I still contribute. I still show up for my family. I'm there for my friends. I'm professional. I'm creative. All these things. The opposite of what you guys thought a stoner or, a drug user with covered in tattoos, what you think that personality is supposed to be like. I'm like, have I changed your perspective on people? Like when you're walking around now, do you maybe have a little bit less prejudice than you did before because your own kid looks like that guy or that girl? And both of them 100% have completely turned around on it to the point now where, they used to say very judgy things about random people in public and we're like kind of prejudging people by the way they looked or, maybe my mom was like clutching her purse a little bit tighter than she normally would, or my dad would kind of like make a little bit more room around someone on the sidewalk. He lives in New York City, so like there's a lot of different like strong personalities up there and it's so interesting now and it makes me very proud, which I'm sure you feel in a very like specific way for yourself too. It's just like you, just like me and a whole lot of other people, we are changing the what the perspective or the archetype of a stoner or a cannabis user can be and who that really is, you know so I'm really proud to be able to write the story about you and these other veterans, man. Like I feel like it's not a story that's never been told before, but it's becoming very personal to me to tell your story as humanly as I can. You know what I mean? And to represent you and everyone else that I'm talking to in a way that not only respects everything that you've done for this country and the changes that you've been able to make in your own lives, but the immeasurable impact that you're going to have by changing perception on people and being as outspoken as you are and as passionate as every other veteran that I've spoken to. I mean, it really is a brotherhood, the more that I talk to you guys. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Um, but family's not always easy, right? And so I think it's going to be a very special process for me, man, to go through this and really write this article. And I hope I do you guys proud. I hope I tell your stories in a very personal and intimate way and a very respectful way. And if anything, I want to elevate what you guys are doing more than just explain what you guys are doing. You know what I mean? And shine a light on it. No, I want to elevate it. I want to put that shit on a podium, on a platform, on a stage. So I appreciate the trust, man. I'm really sorry that I do have to go, but I had a few more questions lined up. If you don't mind, I send them to you through email and you can take your time with them.
Yeah, man, send them over. Just one last thought on what it is that you were talking about there. I think the best example that we could provide is how we're living
100%.
and how we're interacting. Like, not politics is messy, man. And if that's all you got, which isn't all you got, right?
Right.
There's a bigger picture out there. So
It's a very narrow way of thinking. Yeah.
it's we've been in a position where we've been asking for permission to do what we've already been doing for
Hmm.
generations. And really, the difference here is we're comfortable speaking out about it now because we've lost too many, right?
Right.
And the fellowship that you referred to is real. The link that binds us through military service, through service in general, is strong
Hmm.
for our sisters and our brothers who went off and risked everything. Didn't know if they were going to be coming back in a lot of instances, but did it anyway. And
Right.
now it that should be enough to elevate their voices
I
to
agree.
listen to what they're saying they need. And everything else above and beyond that is noise
Right.
and really belongs in community conversation and to help complete that circle that is left with a gap when we don't welcome these people home and listen to what it is that they experience on our behalf
Hmm.
and the messages and warnings that they have for us going forward.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. If any responsibility that we have as adults who have lived lives now is to provide that wisdom and knowledge to the younger people who are going to come through and live through very similar moments, you know?
it's not worse, man. It's getting sketchy out there, but
Yeah.
it's important to maintain our humanity
Mhm.
and to be empathetic with others who, what is it saying there, but for the grace of God go I.
Right.
And so it's like, don't just look down, right? But reflect and then just be better, man. Like that's not perfect, but just, you know where your gap is. Just work on it. You know what I mean? And
Right. Be
that's
honest with
not
you.
you. That's just people in general. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Yeah. No, I say that all the time. Be honest with yourself, have an open dialogue with yourself and honestly, that's something that fucking weed helps me a lot with in general. Like it opens me up, dude, whether I like it or not.
yeah,
Sometimes I don't want to open that. I don't want to open that window. But that fucking I had to let that draft in, and all of a sudden now I'm sitting here thinking about it at 2 in the morning. But that's only benefited me in the long run. So it's like these types of conversations are only going to benefit people the more that they get involved in them. You
well,
know,
that sounds like the writer's life to me, bro.
it is.
I got a thought. It's what three? Oh yeah, let's start writing. And
Yeah, dude. That's like, and that's literally what I have to do for the rest of the day. I'm like, I have like two big articles I got to turn in, and but yeah, man, this is something I'm going to get started on this, right, really putting pen on paper next week,
cool.
for this. So you have some time to sit with those questions and send me a few of your own if you'd like, or we can maybe try and set up another time to link up again next week if I felt like there's some good follow-ups that I could come at you with. So
Yeah, I'll see what Kowalski's doing. I got another homie of mine that I've been working closely with for the last 3 or 4 years in Israel, who
okay,
has a whole different perspective on the gaps over there.
that's a whole nother can of worms, I feel like, man.
But it's connected, especially when you
100%.
like again, we've funded their research that affords them to gain access to the shit that they deny us.
Yep.
Hey, when I send this over, I'll probably use a separate email because my storage is almost at capacity and I refuse to be extorted by Google.
Yeah. Good.
More, yeah, but
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
send
that's
this
fine,
over.
man. I'll keep an eye out. Just make it like a really obvious title so I know what I'm looking at. But
Cool.
dude, thank you so much for your time, man.
My
And
pleasure, bro.
any additional time you're gonna give in the future, like I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. After you're done using this for your notes and your piece, we'll probably, if it's cool with you, just throw it up on our website as a conversation with a high
Yeah.
draft writer.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I would totally be fine with that. And we can do another one too if you'd like.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
I'll invite some other of the homies.
All right, hell yeah, man. I would love that.
All right, bro.
Yo, good talking to you, man.
Likewise. Cheers.
Take it easy.